Hello and welcome to week 14 of building Kamino. Yes, we're really getting up there in the numbers now. My plan today is to work on this small squarish looking section over here, just along from Blitz's balcony, and above where my light box is. This is basically going to be the control room of Kamino. I'm very excited to get this area done. This is where I'm going to put my Shakti and both my Kaminoans, I think, at the minute. I think it's going to look pretty good. So let's get building, shall we?
Move it, troopers! On the double! Fire!
Okay, so first off today we're starting with a haul, and finally I can now go back to the Lego store because the UK's finally opened them again. So let's see what I got for my first trip back. So let's have a look and see what we've got. We've got these three here, that being this kind of like suave looking gentleman with a sword, two of those guys, and then this like ship captain with a little chameleon. I bought the ship captain purely just because that hat's a really nice piece. I really like the jumper, and also that chameleon is super cool looking. And then for the other two minifigures, what may help with this is if you saw my most recent short, which is how to improve your Imperial Officer minifigures, which is through these legs. These are super helpful, so I'm very happy I got that, and that was just £5 for that, which is an absolute steal in my view. And next is the Pick-a-Brick Cup. I didn't really know what I was going to get for the Pick-a-Brick. I wanted to see what could help me with Kamino and what could help me with other stuff. Okay, so after a quick bit of time sorting them out, you can see I only actually got 4 pieces total here, but these are all such wonderful pieces. Now let me explain why for each individual option. I think what immediately draws my eye is these guys. I got a ton of these 2x6 dark orange plates. If I had one more, I could perfectly fix the square, but still, I'm so happy with all of these. If you're at all knowledgeable about different colors of Lego and their corresponding prices, you'll know that dark orange is one of the hardest and most expensive to get a hold of in bulk. So I didn't get that many of them, but if I ever want to build something in dark orange, I've now got a pretty strong base with all of these dark orange plates. Just very useful pieces in a very useful color. Can't wait to use those someday. I don't have anything upcoming soon that will use these that well, but in the future, for sure, I'll find a use for these guys. The next two groups kind of go together, that being these guys and these guys. You can see I got considerably more of these. That's because I've got quite a lot of the 2-wide variant of this one. Basically, the story is with these guys. They may at first look like pretty regular bracket pieces, but these 1x1 bracket pieces actually only released fairly recently. I believe they were 2018 parts. So it was super cool to get those because they are relatively new in the grand scheme of Lego. So I'm a big fan of all of these parts, and I got a ton of them. I definitely don't need to get any more of these because just for any use in different Star Wars mocks, even as just little greebling pieces or to actually connect things to make little custom robots or whatnot. Super cool, big fan, love these. The next thing I got are all of these boys. Now, if you're familiar with Kamino, you'll know it's got a lot of rounded edges to it, and two of these together create this really nice round shape. So yeah, this is basically perfect for Kamino. This was the lowest amount of pieces they had in the store that I went to, so I got pretty much all they had left of these, but I'm so happy to get quite a fair amount of them. Yeah, to build for Kamino. I know that most of my railings are going to be grey, but I can fit some light bluish grey every now and again just to mix up the colours, so I'm really happy with those. Now, I may have discussed this before, but while the whole COVID thing's going on, because you can't like perfectly put as many pieces in your cup as you want, for example, I would have attached all of these pieces together to make it fit as small into the cup as possible. They do give you an extra scoop of pieces, and I probably should have picked one of these just to be more helpful to me, but there was a part on the wall which I couldn't help myself in buying more of, because I've got such a small amount of pieces in this color, so I really wanted to bulk up my collection of them, and I'm so happy that I did. That color is teal. I got a bunch of these 1x4 bricks in the teal color. As you can see here, these guys are so lovely. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to build with these. And they're probably not really useful just to have in 1x4s. I'm pretty sure the store had like 1x1s as well, so maybe the next time I go I might get some 1x1s to help build actual structures from this. But this is just such a cool colour and I can't wait to build out of it. You can't see it that well in my current lighting, but it's just a really, really nice turquoise colour. So I'm happy to get a bunch of those and cannot wait to use them in another mock. But yeah, that's the pick a brick from this haul for today. I know it took quite a while to get through all of it, but I'm super happy with everything we've got here. Now, let's get to actually building something, shall we? Okay, before I start any building, the first thing I want to do today for Kamino is tidying up. As you can see, this area is very messy. You can see there's a lot of exposed filler brick on the inside here. There's some discolored pieces in this wall which I need to switch out for better ones. And I also need to raise this floor so it actually meets the correct level it should be at. And maybe cover up this hole a little bit too to give myself some actual room for this control room. So let's start by sorting out that wall, shall we? Okay, that looks much better there. Okay, I've quickly taken out the actual, I guess, switch to turn on the lights here. That's just going to be because I'm going to move it slightly further back to this way, purely just so I can get more floor room in this space, so this is not just a random pole sticking through the center of it. I'm just going to try and move this as far away this way as possible. Maybe try and take away a little bit of this wall too, just to try and see just how far I can stretch out that switch, just so I get as much space as possible. Because as you know with Kamino, I just like to cram things in pretty much. Okay, so if you can see what I've done here, I've basically replaced those two sticks with like a large 4x6 black Technique piece, which is strong enough to attach to these two long bars. So I've still got that switch where I can pull back and then it switches on the lights and push forward and it turns it off. So now I've basically achieved that same switch action, but moved it much further to the left to give me all of this room to plate over to make my control room a lot bigger. So I'm really happy with how that's turned out. So now I need to just strengthen this, fix some small issues that I made in the process, and then actually put the floor onto this before we can start making the actual control room itself. I knew this update was going too well. Basically, as you can see here, I've sorted around the floor from most around the bottom of this. I'm building up, it's going really well. This is all staying really tight and together. I move over to this section. I had to take the door out to move down the section here. And now when I try and replace the door, there is a gigantic gap along the bottom, which was not there before. So I tried to take out this little yellow plate down here to try and move this down, and it turns out looking like this. You can see that the gap is still there, but there's still also space underneath the studs that don't push down to connect with. But this should also be directly in line with this layer of studs here, but they're not, which made me think I need to put this over, but when you put it higher, you saw what happened before. So I'm not entirely sure what I've done wrong here, that none of this works correctly, but now I'm gonna have to disassemble a bunch of this and put it all back together so that it lines up correctly. So that's gonna be fun. I'll see you then. Okay, after way too long trying to figure this out, you won't believe how many times I had to take this entire thing apart and put it directly back together again. But this is what it's looking like now. I think I'm happy with it. There is still a tiny gap there and this black plate still isn't working, but I'm just going to try and cover it up as if nothing's gone wrong. I think it was something wrong with this stud here not being down correctly. There's something wrong with the underside of this, where some plates are in the wrong place. I think it may be ultimately due to the wiring under this, which is pushing it up slightly. I think that's where my problem is, but I need the wiring to be there in order to light down this section underneath. So yeah, I'm just going to have to deal with it and plate over the top. But on top of this layer, there's going to be another layer of tile, and that's going to be the floor layer. So now I need to build all this layer up to where this floor is and cover up this like bit here, so this is the only bit sticking out. Let's finally move on to that. Okay, so now I've actually got the tiles down in this section here. I need to get some more jumper tiles in 2x2 and light bluish grey just to give my other figure some spaces to stand. But I'm liking how this is going so far. Again, you can see even more clearly the uneven problem with the tiles, how some of them are just poking up in awkward places. I genuinely do not know what's happened to make so many of these so uneven, but I'm just going to run with it at this point because I don't know how to fix it and I've spent way too long trying. One thing I also did you can see here exactly where I squared off this room, and I found something that actually does fit in here, that being the switch. I'm basically going to use this as an extension cord to get more lights on, attaching from this point here, and I can still keep this as my switch as I leave this continuously on, so I don't mind about doing that, and I think that's pretty cool, and that still works. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put in some control panels to go in here for our Kaminoans themselves. I think they should look pretty good, so let's try and shove them in too, shall we? Okay, so the first thing I absolutely want to put into this mock was this type of thing here. This basically represents that blue planet object that was in the control room in Kamino. I know this isn't like a perfect way to represent it, but I think this still looks really, really cool, and is probably the best way I could represent it. I've seen a couple other people do similar things before, but I definitely just wanted to use it because it works so accurately, and I think it actually works well going into that hole, because I can now make it kind of look like it's floating with using the clear pieces, even if it isn't perfect. But then when I switch the light on, it almost lights up. If I take off the light, you can kind of see how I mean about how I want it to light up. Okay, I ripped up all the tiles again because I was just so unhappy with how uneven the floor was, and if you just look here you can just see how bad the state of it was. Every plate is completely uneven compared to the one next to it, and nothing pushes down correctly. So I need to rip off an entire layer of this in order to try and get the correct heights of everything. So time to start a quick demolition process. This should be fun. One layer of plate down, you can still see that there's unevenness here, and that means I just need to go lower. I'm thinking I need to take away this entire wall of what I did yesterday. You can see the switch is back out again and everything's just going all wrong. So the balcony is going to have to completely go next. And here's it completely gone. Now I've finally got it straight. My issue I found was actually to do with this platform with these light bluish grey plates. Turns out I had it one plate too low before, so it wasn't actually quite equal and going straight, which means that all of this was messed up. But I have now replaced it, and now I've got this light bluish grey line going around the whole thing, which looks a lot better. But yeah, that was a whole lot of stress and probably not worth it, but now it can actually work. Okay, I've finally got that back wall on now. Sorry about the quality here, I had to slow down this clip quite a lot. But yeah, I'm actually using some dimension shields to basically get that purple wall on the back there, and I quite like the look of it. It's just got some interesting details on it. But yeah, let's get the computers in. Okay, so here's my two yellow computers. I know they're not perfect how they were in the show. They're not like rounded and they've got these big grey borders on them. But basically this was the only way I could do it, because I just don't have enough room in here to get it completely accurate, because I'm trying to fit as much of Kamino as possible into these rooms, so not every single room can be perfect. And obviously I'd like to have Shaq T fighting some aqua droids, but I just don't know if that's possible. I'll have a think about it and try and do some different positions in the actual final video. I'll definitely have her fighting droids at some point, but for this main room I don't think we're going to have any droid attack just now. You can see I rejigged where I was going to put these shields and put them in the middle, just so they were a little bit more prominent, and I think that works quite well. And when I attach that to what I showed you earlier, that being this little dome thing in here, I like that kind of mix of those three trans colours together, just to give it a really nice futuristic feel. You might be wondering, Sam, why is it just in a massive empty gap? Well, if you can see around here, I've got a line of tiles, which is basically for this sub-assembly. You can see what I've created here is a relatively simple, just like block wall, and this is to basically fit in here in a similar way to how this wall is kind of a breakaway, so you can see into Cult's corridor. This wall is going to be a breakaway so you can see into the control room. I didn't do it on the balcony because you can just see into the balcony anyway, and I didn't do it in the barracks because that's just around the back, so most people wouldn't see that anyway, whereas this is going to be viewable on the main shot of Kamino, so I didn't want this to be open, so it's just nice and easily removable if you want to see the details inside. So that looks pretty cool. You can see I also attached that little white light on the top there, which I'm doing in all the Kaminoan rooms. I don't have quite enough room to put another one of these light bluish grey bars here, and also just because these macaroni pieces are really hard to find, at least for cheap, so I'm okay just leaving that blank for now. But I think this room is generally going to be a success. So this was just a very long episode for probably not much avail in the end. But anyway, let's get a roof on this bad boy and then we can finish up. And there you have it, the final control center of Kamino. I'm not sure how I feel about this entirely with the light I put in the roof here. I probably would want to put in more than one light, but I'm kind of running out of light, so I kind of want to use them sparingly. So you can see I just put that in the center of the room, but it doesn't really light it up too much. I think if you take out the light and I just take my personal big light and just basically shoot it in here, you get a much better view of basically everything that's going on. So I may not even include a light in here, but let me know if you want me to. So thank you very much for watching this week's episode of Building Kamino. If you liked the update, like the update, that's what the like button's there for. Comment your favourite thing we did this update. For me, it's finally sorting out that levelling problem, which has been haunting me for absolute weeks now. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was tough. And if you're new, why not subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode of Building Kamino, as long as a bunch of other LEGO Star Wars content on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, I always do appreciate it, and goodbye. And to wrap up this week's episode of Building Kamino, we have the custom clone section. This section is for people who show up to my live streams and ask for a clone to be named after them in the mock. And all you need to do is give me a name for your clone and an accessory, and I will show them in the next week's episode of Building Kamino. So here's who we've got today. We have SW Bricks and Figs, we've got Elijah, we've got GM Productions, we've got Sergeant Faith, we've got Pork Loin, we've got Burrito Boys, we've got Cheesa, who asked for a Captain America shield, but I couldn't find it, so I just took a Nexonite shield and stuck Captain America's head on it. Hopefully that works. Here we've got Tamka Cotter, and then the last we've got Porg. So thank you so much for all of you guys for showing up to the live streams, and if, as I said before, if you want to show up in this section next week, come along to the live stream and just ask. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, bye bye guys.